All right. Welcome everybody to our brand new series, 8-part series. In fact, we put together a list of all of the things that are necessary for starting the year strong, starting this winter strong. Welcome. My name is Jeff Glover with Glover U. I'm on with Matt Sutter, and I'll get to our topic in just a moment. But we decided, since it's been so long since we've done a webinar series, that we would look at, okay, what are the needs of the industry right this moment? What are the needs of real estate agents? What are the needs of brokers? What are the needs of team leaders? What are the needs of lead agents? And so we put a collection, 8 topics in total, that have all been updated. Some of them are repeat, by the way. For some of you, for those of you that have been joining us for a while, you might say, well, wait a minute, did you guys do that one, a year ago or whatever? Yes, but we're constantly updating our material based on what's happening in the industry. That's one of the benefits of being on with us, is you're working with a group that's on the ground and in the field. Again, my name is Jeff Glover with Glover U, and I've been listing and selling real estate now. This May will be 20 years. 20 years. I know we've got a lot of first timers on. So if you're a very first timer to any sort of Glover U webinar, do me a favor, throw 777 down in the chat. I want to see where my first timers are at. Let's see that. Go ahead and throw 77 down. Hey, Rusty, how you doing? Good to see. First timer on a Glover U webinar, throw that in there so that we know who you are, where you're coming from. Throw in there, city and state. You're going to start to see a lot of people repeat over and over that are coming to each one of these webinars. And we want to consider you, of course, for referral opportunities as well. So welcome and thank you for joining us. For those of you that are not familiar, Glover U is what we call a non-denominational coaching and training organization for real estate agents for all over the country. In fact, I think at this point, we've got a client in every one of the 50 US states, including several clients in Canada as well. So if you're joining us from Canada, throw the little the Canadian flag in there. I want to see who's on from Canada as well. I know we've got a lot of people that chime in and attend our stuff in Canada as well. So we'd love to see you. Thanks for your trust in us. All right, real quick, everyone should have a workbook for today's session. It would have came in the email that you received about an hour or so ago. They're also going to throw that down in the chat. All right, Canada. Hey, Troy. All right, good to see everyone. There's the link to the workbook down in the chat. If you got a pretty quick printer, go ahead and open that PDF up. You're going to need that, print that out so you have a copy as we're working through today's session. So make sure you have the workbook if you don't already. They just put that in the chat. So go ahead and click on that link. It'll open it up, select print, and boom, you got a workbook. Okay, a couple quick things. Since I saw a lot of 777s, a lot of first timers on. All right, for those of you that have been on with us before, bear with me for a minute. I'm going to share just a couple resources. Although if you want to know all of the resources, they're actually listed on page 4 of your workbook. I'm going to share with you what we believe are the best resources you should be using on a daily basis right now. So if you're new to us, turn to page 4 in the workbook, because there they all are. If you've been with us before, you probably already have these, so just bear with me for a moment. The first thing I want you to write down, and if you've got your workbook printed out, just write this on page 5, or if you're keeping track of your notes in a Word document on your laptop, I want you to write down the number 55444. 55444. That's kind of the universal phone number for Glover U, although we do have a number that you could call if you ever wanted to speak to someone. The number that I want you to write down is 55444. And right next to that, I want you to write the word morning. 55444 and the word morning. To make it easier on you, for those of you that have your cell phone handy, here's what you do. Open up your text chat as if you were texting a new friend. Okay, the phone number again is 55444. All right, so just as if you were sending a message to a new friend, 55444 is the number. And in the body of the message, I just want you to type morning and hit send in the body of the message. Why am I having you do that? Well, that's because every Monday, every Tuesday, every Wednesday, every Thursday, every Friday, I'm sending out a daily message, something that you can use with your teams. It's the same things that I use with our team, something that you can use in your sales meeting and your coaching sessions. I know we've got a lot of lead agents. We've got a lot of team leaders on or broker owners on. So I'm sending out a daily message that you can do whatever you want with. I mean, heck, you can take it and rewrite it in your own words or do whatever with it. Every Monday, every Tuesday, every Wednesday, every Thursday, every Friday, and it's completely free. All right. I would encourage you to get your agent signed up for it, or just copy and paste it into your Facebook groups or whatever, whenever you feel like it's a good topic. Every day I'm sharing something as it relates to succeeding in the real estate industry today, especially in sales. It's mostly for real estate salespeople. And of course, people leading teams as well are on there. And I encourage you to sign up. Again, that's texting the word morning to 55444. All right. The other resource I want to make sure everyone is aware of is the Glover U Inner Circle Facebook group. A lot of you, especially because we have a lot of broker owners on, a lot of you will call or email me and say, Jeff, man, I just saw you were in Charlotte and you didn't tell me. Jeff, I just saw that you were in Boise, Idaho. I didn't know you were coming to Boise. We update everything in the Inner Circle. So if you ever want to know if we're going to be in your town, if we're going to be in your backyard, you got to get into the Inner Circle because we always share our latest and greatest stuff in there first. That is a free Facebook group. You just go to your Facebook app, search the little magnifying glass, type in Glover U Inner Circle, and you'll be in there. And of course, we're always putting on free stuff and inexpensive stuff to help get your agents into higher levels of production. And we recommend you use us, and I'll get to Matt's topic in a second. I was running a mastermind at our last event in Orlando, and somebody raised their hand and shared one of their biggest ahas is that they use Glover U not only as their training platform, but they're using it as their recruiting platform, meaning they're saying, this is why you should join our company because we have an agreement with Glover U and we get their latest and greatest stuff. And they're actually using it as a recruiting and retention tool, which we're of course going to talk about today. So Glover U Inner Circle is where you're going to find out all the latest and greatest stuff. And that is a free Facebook group. Go check that out. All right. Last but not least, I know a lot of you, this isn't necessarily a free resource, but I wanted to make sure because it's still January, many of you have asked, Jeff, are you still producing that planner? We have some brokerages that buy 50 of these. We have brokerages that buy hundreds of these. We sell several thousand of these throughout the year. This isn't just like a daily planner. All right. There's business plans in here. There's an annual business plan. There's a quarterly business plan. It's more than just, all right, what'd you do today? Although at the bottom of every page, one of the things I love is there is an accountability section at the bottom of every page. Anyways, you want to get your hands on one of these. They're cheap. They're $39. Go to gloveru.com/shop. That's gloveru.com/shop. If you have yet to get your hands on our 2022 planner built by real estate agents for real estate agents. All right, let's get to the real reason why you're all here. We put together 8 webinars between now and I guess basically mid-February, every Monday and every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You already know how to check them out because you already went to gloveru.com/webinar to sign up. So I don't need to leave you there. You know how to do that. Today's particular topic has to do with recruiting, training, and retaining. It's specifically for broker owners. It's specifically for lead agents. It's specifically for team leaders. And I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't have the same person, the same individual. When I was given an opportunity to buy a brokerage, this particular person was my mentor. This particular person, Matt Sutter, was the person that I had to call and say, hey, here's the challenges that I'm having with my brokerage. How do I solve it? Or here's the challenges that I'm having with recruiting. What should I do? Here's the challenges I'm having with retention. What should I do? And so it just made sense several years ago when Matt and I had the opportunity and several discussions about working together. This is the guy that taught me how to run a brokerage. And of course, he leads all of our group coaching programs as it relates to running brokerages. It makes sense. That's who I learned from. And so although, I have a lot to share on running brokerages and how we've gotten to certain levels of success, this is who I learned it from. So without further ado, Matt Sutter, why don't you take it away, sir?
Thanks, Jeff. Good morning, everyone. Hope you guys are off to a great start. And I'm super excited to be with you guys today to talk about recruiting, training, and retaining. And we're going to start off with just an honest assessment. We need to take stock. We need to get into reality that we are in the single greatest real estate market of all time. We are at a point in our industry where, quite frankly, everyone's breaking records. Everyone's making a lot of money. And we've fooled ourselves. We bought into this idea. That somehow, because the market is so strong, we're able to succeed at a high level. And that means that going on in perpetuity, we're still going to be able to succeed at a high level. Here's what we know. We know our industry over the next, X number of years. And by the way, I'm not predicting any sort of market shift or cataclysmic event. And we know at some point the industry will change. That's inevitable with market cycles. We know we're headed into a period of time where we're going to see a lot of consolidation. And for those of you guys that follow me on Facebook, yesterday I made a post that says, at the end of the day, in X number of years, every single one of us is either going to be an acquirer or an acquiree. The question is, what you determine now, how you set up your business today is what's going to determine which of those you are into the future. So 3 major things we're going to talk about today. The first is how do we attract and recruit superstar talent, even in this incredible industry, in this incredible market. We see right now the number one complaint, the number one challenges we're hearing from brokers and from team leaders is I can't find talent, or I can't bring enough talent to my organization. I am literally stuck with a lot of mediocrity. So we're going to hit that. We're going to talk about then how once you bring talent on, how do you actually get them trained and how do you actually get them developed? And then we're finally going to end up with how do we actually retain that talent? I don't know about you, but as I go around the country, Jeff goes around the country, one of the biggest issues that we see, even with high-performing teams, is this constant revolving door. It's 3 agents come in and 3 agents are out every single month like clockwork, and the ability to retain really high-level talent for more than a couple of years is quite frankly something we just don't see from most teams out there. So how do we actually create opportunities so that they want to stay? Now, Jeff, I'm getting some notes here that audio is muffled.
Yep. I'm hearing that a little bit too. Is it possible if you disconnect your earpiece and then we'll just pick up your laptop speaker mic, that might work better?
Let me try that right now.
These are free, guys. So, we're low budget, right? Low equipment here. We didn't send Matt a microphone. We didn't give him any sort of professional equipment. I mean, we got no money to do this. We had to offer this for free.
Yeah. No,
oh my God. Much better.
Much better. Okay, fantastic. Sorry about that. Okay, great. Thank you so much. All right, so let's jump in. By the way, we're going to go really, really fast today. We've got, roughly 45 minutes left to, in typical Jeff Glover U fashion. Hey, Matt, can you come deliver 12 hours worth of content in about 45 minutes? So we're going to go fast and we're going to go through. So let's start here. First and foremost, we have to win the talent acquisition game. Period. Hard stop. If you take nothing else from today's webinar, recognize that the team with the most talent will win. Period. Talent will always figure out how to win. We've got to get into business with the top talent. So 5 things to follow that put us in position to acquire the best talent. The first thing is, and Jeff, you're a living, breathing example of this, is we've got to walk the walk. Talent wants to hang out with talent. If you want to go acquire talent, guess what? You've got to be talent. You've got to do what you say to do, not just go off and say, hey, do this, but oh, by the way, I'm going to be doing this. Talent will leave you if they do not see you as a vehicle for your success. They may join you because they like you. They may join you because you're doing big things. If it gets to the point, though, that they do not see you as a vehicle for their success, talent will always leave. Next, commit to teaching.
Matt, can I just say one thing on that?
Yeah.
We see so much today because of social media. Everyone is a rock star on social media, right? Everyone is a superstar and come join me. And by the way, you're right. They do attract a lot of people. They do recruit a lot of people, but those are the same people that if they're not in the trenches with their people, and listen, I'm not saying you have to sell 100 homes a year, right? Although of course I'm always like, gotta be at that number. But you gotta show up every single day. At the same time, you expect your people to show up. You gotta be willing to go on appointments with them and get contracts signed. Otherwise, the same people that are putting out a little bit of a facade on social media, it's working. They're attracting people, but what's happening, Matt, and I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, they're experiencing a lot of turnover. So they're having to re-recruit constantly over and over because they're not in the trenches with their people. I love point number 1, and I know that's no surprise to you.
Yeah, no, dead on. Thank you. I appreciate that. And so moving forward, because you're exactly right. Next thing is commit to teaching in your marketplace. I can tell you, for me, that was one of the biggest things I did to become an attractor of talent. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people say, well, I don't want to go teach in my marketplace because I don't want to tell everybody how we're succeeding and how we're winning. Here's what we've got to understand. In this modern era, strategy is overrated. At the end of the day, Jeff, I know you'll agree with this. We can copy anybody's strategy. Within a couple of weeks, we can learn their strategy and we can actually implement. At the end of the day, though, it's all about execution. So for me, what I have found one of the best tactics is to actually go teach in my marketplace and tell them exactly what we're doing. Yep. Because by the way, what that actually typically creates for them is validity. And they often will have these thoughts of, I don't know if I can, or I don't know if I want to recreate that. Man, maybe joining, Matt's X business is going to be a great opportunity for me. Next is we're thinking about acquiring talent. We must be casting our vision over and over and over. Here's the reality. People want to join you, not for you. Let me take that back. They may actually join you because they like you. they will not stay unless they are attracted to your vision and see their place in it. Now, here's the thing, and Jeff, I learned this from you over the years, is your methodical intentionality around your social media posting around the vision for Glover U. And here's the thing that I've been aware of. You're super popular on social media. You have a lot of followers, but a lot of times your posts where you're talking about vision don't get a whole lot of interaction. They may not get a lot of likes. They may not get a lot of comments. But here's what I've learned, Jeff. People are watching. They're seeing it. They may not want you to know they like it, but they do. So here's the reality. We want to be casting vision over and over. And don't get worried. Don't get bogged into the idea of, well, no one's responding, no one's engaging, therefore they may not care, or I'm not doing it correct. They are watching. And trust me, over time, you start wearing them down to the point that they want to come be with you.
Love that.
Now, here's the really critical thing when it comes to vision, is that we have to cast a vision outside of ourselves. See, if we make it all about us, if we make it all about our town, if we make it all about our success, what happens is people may join you because of that, because they're excited about being in relationship with you. But here's the reality, is your business gets bigger. When people have joined your entity because they want to be in your world, what happens is you can never actually extract yourself from being their direct report.
Bingo.
Jeff, and I can see your cog going. What happens is if I've got an organization where I've got 4 people in it, well, great. I can have all 4 people report to me. But if they've joined me and at some point my organization becomes 40 people, well, listen, the reality is no leader can effectively lead more than somewhere between 7 to 8 people really well, which means I'm going to have multiple layers of leadership in there. Well, trust me, if John joined my business because he wanted access to me, and now John's no longer in a position where I can be his direct report, what do you think's happening to John? He's cutting out. Jeff, did you have something you wanted to add?
No, well, a couple of things. Number one, on your point of vision, I struggled with this early on with JGA, our real estate team. I had it up here and I knew where we were going, but I didn't share it enough. And so it's very important to that point. You have to be able to not just have the vision of where you want to go and what's important, but you have to be able to write it out and actually articulate it. And just as Matt gave the example of now what we do with, say, Glover U, articulating it also means marketing it, because marketing it becomes a recruiting tool. Marketing it becomes a retention tool because it's a constant reminder for your people of why they're there. And it's a constant reminder to the market of why someone should consider working with you. So I love that you said that. And yeah, keep going. Good stuff.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And here's the reality of vision. You cannot over repeat it. Most of us, because, and I would imagine probably the large number percentage of people on this call today, they wake up constantly thinking around their vision, right? I know for me, Jeff, and I know you're the same thing. When I go to bed, the last thing I think about is my businesses. When I wake up, the first thing I think about is my businesses, right? I'm obsessed. You're obsessed with it. But remember, that doesn't mean everyone else in our world is obsessed. And so a lot of times, because we're constantly thinking about it, we're like, I don't need to share my vision because surely everyone else is obsessed with it as well. And they're not. They're not thinking about it every second. We have got to cast it over and over and over and over and over. It's literally a never-ending cycle of articulating and crafting. And I love what you just said there, marketing our vision, right? The vision is the attractor. It is what pulls people into us. Next, if you want to attract superstar talent, we have to get really good at talking about the success of others in our organization. See, number one rule I see on social media all the time is people doing their humble brags about the success they're having, but fundamentally, they're actually making it about themselves. Now, they may think they're people, but at the end of the day, it is really about, look at me, look what I've done. Well, here's the reality. People may be impressed. They may think you're a superstar, and that's fantastic. They won't join you because you're a superstar, however. They want to join a business where they can become a superstar. The biggest thing we can do is celebrate the victories of the people honest, because what that does is that indirectly says, okay, well, I know that Jeff Glover, he's superstar talent. I don't think of myself as ever being like Jeff Glover. So me joining Jeff Glover doesn't actually get me where I want. Well, when Jeff then talks about, and he's done this here just in the past couple of days, recognizing people that have hit significantly high accomplishments. Well, hey, he gets to praise them, but what is it also showing about his particular sales team? Yep. That's a vehicle for someone's success.
Yeah. And even more so today, not just the units and volume, and because yes, that part's important, but the lifestyle people are living, because of their affiliation with you. It's so important today, especially because of social media. And it's just kind of like, you know, so the last few years, lifestyle and ways of living and styles of living have been so a spotlight has been shined on them because of social media. So in addition to what you're sharing, when it becomes, you know, as it relates to the success stories of your people, you also should be sharing, probably more importantly, the life they're living because of their affiliation with you. It's not just all about trophies and income and GCI and awards. What kind of life are they living because of their affiliation with you?
Yeah, I love that. Thank you, Jeff. And just moving forward, I know you and I are both huge fans of John Maxwell, and have learned just a significant amount of information from him. And he's got a quote that I heard probably for the first time a little over a decade ago, and it really changed everything. And he said, "You cannot take a duck to Eagle School."
Yeah.
Let me repeat that. You cannot take a duck to Eagle School. And I can tell you, working with thousands of agents over the past several years, one of the biggest complaints I hear from them, especially running brokerages or running sales teams, is I'm pouring everything I have into my people, and they're just, there you go. Fantastic. I'm pouring everything I have into them, and they're just not doing the work. Why can't I just get people that will be productive? Here's the reality. If you hire ducks, the best you're ever going to get is good ducks, but they'll never be eagles. When we're bringing talent in, they have to be baby eagles, and then we develop them to become full-fledged, mature eagles. I see so many leaders that get drained. They're literally beating their head against the wall, saying, "I just can't get my people to produce. I just can't get my people to produce." And my question to them is, why do you have those people? What are you going to do about it? Instead of changing everything else, go find eagles. Because, by the way, Jeff, and you know this, even if you didn't have the best training program, if you hire eagles, guess what? They'll still become mature eagles, because that's what eagles do.
Hey, Matt, I know. So can you recap those 5 for us real quick? Number 1, number 2, a lot of people are chatting us, which we love and we appreciate that, but you're chatting it to hosts and panelists. And I think a lot of your comments, you're hoping that everyone can see them. So when you go to the chat, it automatically defaults. It says to hosts and panelists, and you're chatting us, which we love. All you do is click on that little drop down where it says hosts and panelists, and you select everyone, and then now your comments will be seen by everybody. So some of you might have been intentionally doing that. Maybe you didn't know that you could do that, but that's a chat feature there. Just wanted to share that. Yeah, so recap those 5 for us real quick, Matt.
Okay, cool. So the first 4 was walk the walk, become an icon. The second one was cast vision over and over and over and over. The third is talk about success of others in your organization. The fourth is remembering that you cannot take a duck to Eagle School. And here's the fifth. I call it the 1% rule. And I'm going to ask a question that doesn't make a lot of sense, but after I ask the question, I'll explain what I mean. For those of you, I'm specifically talking to agents or I'm talking to broker owners, but we'll just use the agent analogy here. What % of agent do you want to be? Here's what I mean. Do you want to be in the top 50% of agents in your marketplace? Do you want to be in the top 20% of agents? Do you want to be in the top 1% of agents in your marketplace? Well, here's what the top 1% rule says. I want to be in the top % of agents or the top 1% of broker owners in my marketplace. Am I likely going to get there if I hire people that are okay just being in the top 50% of their role? If I hire an executive assistant, it's like, I'm pretty cool being average. Well, by the way, I have no judgment. That's their life. They get to build their life how they want. But is that going to help me get into the top 1%? So that's the fifth one, is to follow the top 1% rule. All right, let's switch gears now. So that's the idea of attracting a talent into our world. Now, how do we actually go about the recruiting process? How do we actually go about identifying who's an eagle and who is a duck? And I'm going to put up, I'm going to share my screen really quick and put up a slide.
While you're doing that, Matt, Nancy asked a question. Yes, to become iconic or to become attractive, we're talking about remaining in the trenches, right? I know there's a lot of there's a lot of lead agents on. Remain in the trenches. Again, I'm not saying you have to sell 75 to 100 homes a year. They'll respect you even if you're just selling a couple homes per month, because that means you know what they're dealing with. Same thing with broker owners. We've got a lot of broker owners on where they say, I did that years ago. And by the way, just as Matt talked about, I think it was principle number 3. You're going to get to a point to where you can only lead a certain number of people. If you're not in the trenches, then make sure your sales manager or your sales director is in the trenches. The person that is recruiting and attract and retaining your sales team. Make sure they're in the trenches if you're not going to be.
Bingo. Love it. Love it. All right. So let's switch gears a little bit. We're going to go from the attracting piece to now, how do we actually select the best talent? And here's number one mistake I see from most people that are interviewing people is they listen to the stories of the person they're interviewing. So a great mentor of mine shared this about a decade ago. He said, listen, when I hire people, the first thing I tell them after I hire them is you're going to have to repeat all your stories that you told me in the interview process because I didn't listen to any of them. See, here's the truth. If you want to be great at interviewing people, stop listening to their stories. For example, if I were to say, well, tell me about what you did in your last role, and I'm just listening to the story, I'm not actually getting the value I need. When we're looking to identify eagles, it is not about what they say, it's how they think. It is the way they think about success, their life, opportunity, and everything that comes to nature. So on your screen, I've given you an example of some questions that I use typically in the selecting and hiring process. Yet here's what I'm listening for. It's not the story. I'm listening. Do I hear accountability or victim mentality in their language? When they tell me a story of something going wrong, are they accountable to the solution? Were they accountable for the reasons, or did they fall on victim? I'm listening to hear, can they prioritize? If I were to say, well, tell me what the most important things were in the last role, and I start hearing answers that don't show me they can actually prioritize, that's a big concern, especially for certain roles. Next, I want to hear, are they resourceful? Are they learning based? I want to hear where they give me very specific examples of when they had to figure out a solution because they weren't given to it, and they were accountable to go out and find those solutions. Next, I'm listening. Do they have limiting beliefs or do they have unlimiting beliefs? Am I hearing language that makes me think they come from scarcity or do they come from abundance? And the last thing, and again, outside of the story, I want to hear where they've overcome challenges. You know, a lot of times in the recruiting space, when I'm doing interviews, and I've done, I don't know, thousands of interviews over the past decade, the reality is I want to hear that they've had failures. I want to hear that they've had challenges and that they've overcome them. Big warning sign. If somebody can't come up with some really hairy challenges or failures they've had, that is a huge warning sign because it says one of two things. One, either they're inauthentic, right, which is a problem, or they haven't pushed hard enough. See, talent has a track record of failure in addition to a track record of success. I want to know that they've struggled, that they've pushed the envelope far enough to where they did get some egg on their face. Then how did they go about solving it? How did they go about solving it? A couple of things to consider when hiring. Big one, especially when you're hiring operations, admin, marketing roles, is we want to see there's a clear track record of success. Again, they may have had plenty of failures in that, but they were able to pick themselves up and then build success around it. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, the best predictor of someone's future is their past. So if there's not a strong track record of success, it doesn't mean they won't be successful going forward. I don't want to be the guy taking the bet on them. I'm going to go bet on somebody that does have a clear track record of success. Now, ideally, we're looking for that to be professional success, someone that's had a period of actual professional success where we can take that bet on and say, okay, well, because of their past, I'm willing to believe that they're going to do it in the future. But here's the question I always get. Well, what if I'm hiring someone that maybe they're just out of school or they haven't had a whole lot of time or they're young? Well, listen, ideally, I like professional track record of success, but I've made plenty of hires of people in their young 20s. I want to see some sort of track record of success in some other area. Maybe they were a Division I athlete. Maybe they were a state debate champion in high school. Maybe they became an Eagle Scout. I want to see if there's some level of track record of success where they were forced to navigate and persevere through getting some level of accomplishment. Next thing I'm always asking myself before I make a hire is, will this person be successful in their next opportunity, regardless of if it's with me or not? If I believe that I can help someone be successful, but they wouldn't be successful on their own, again, I'm not going to take the bet on them. I want to know that this person is going to be successful regardless. And then it's up to me. The onus is on me is to create the opportunity that becomes so attractive to them because they see me or the business as a vehicle for success. Last thing, and this is one of the most neglected things in the recruiting process, is to do what's called go 3 deep in the references. Now, I'm amazed at the number of people that do not call references before making a hire. And most people just call the references that the candidate was actually supplying with them. Well, guess what? If I have somebody give me 4 references, what's the likelihood I'm going to get a good story? The idea of going 3 deep is I'm going to call those 4 references they give me, and I'm going to end the conversation, say, hey, Sam, thank you so much for your perspective. I'm curious, who else do you know that might be able to give me a different perspective on John, and what's their phone number? And so I'm going to get that second level. I'm going to call, in this case, John or Sam or whoever it was I said, and then I'm going to ask them for an additional resource. So I'm going 3 levels deep. It is amazing that when you get to that 3rd level, how often the stories will start to change, and you're going to get the real dirt on that particular candidate.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because it's just like testimonials, right? You're only asking your clients and your most successful agents for testimonials. Same thing with references. They're only going to give you the people that are going to give them glowing reviews.
Bingo, bingo, bingo. All right, so let's shift gears, and we're going fast. I recognize what time it is, so we want to get as much content as out. Let's talk about the training and ramp up. So we've attracted people, we've successfully recruited, we've caused them to join our organization. Now we've got to get them up to speed. And to quote Maxwell again, since that was a hit earlier, John Maxwell tells this great story of a time when he was teaching a seminar on developing people. So it was for business leaders on how do you develop people. And he says, at some point during the conference, a gentleman walked up to him and he said, John, I really appreciate this content. It's really, really fascinating. But here's the thing. What if I spend all this time, all this money, all these resources on developing my people and they leave? Maxwell paused for a second, and then he responded, well, what if you don't and they stay? See, here's the truth. We've got to come from abundance. It is true that we may sometimes lose good people that we poured and developed in, but what's the alternative? The alternative is what? We're not going to develop our people to the highest level, and then they stay. How are we ever going to get where we want? So understand, when we bring people into our organization, first impressions matter. In other words, I always like to say the first hour someone's with me is literally the most important hour I'll ever have with them. The first day someone's with me is literally the most important day I'll ever have with them. The first week someone's with me is literally the most important week I will ever have with them. Because every type of relationship is like a piggy bank. Now, imagine if you put money into a piggy bank and then you have to make withdrawals at some point. Well, there's still going to be an excess balance in the piggy bank. But see, my first impression with somebody is literally when they're going to make the decision, did I make the right choice or not to join this organization? Right? We both got into business together. We both decided we're going to start this journey together, and that's great. But on day one, we are starting with an empty piggy bank. And if I don't do a fantastic job of making a good first impression, then it's like withdrawing money from the piggy bank when there isn't any money in there. That means I'm now starting the deficit relationship right off the bat, and it is very, very challenging to unpack from that. Now I'm going to reshare my screen. I'm going to put up a 90-day plan. A 90-day plan. We like to think of the onboarding program as somewhere between a 90 to 100-day process, where our goal is to get them up to speed, take them through a training process by which, after 90 or 100 days, they can fully own the role. Now, what's up on your screen may or may not make sense. Don't worry so much about the verbiage and language. Yet, what I want you to see is that we break the first 90 days of someone's tenure with us into 3 30-day segments. In fact, and we're actually very, very transparent with our people on this. We make it very clear that on day one, you have the job for 30 days. And if we graduate through the 30 days, then on day 31, you've got the job for another 30 days. And then a third one. The way I think about it in my mind is this is a probationary period. I'm not celebrating this great hire until they've completed their 90-day process. It's at that point that I'm actually allowing myself to consider, okay, this is now a full-fledged team member in our organization. And so our job is to create a 90 or 100-day plan that really models to them what is most important for them to be successful in the role. Now, again, I'm not expecting you to know what any of this content means. This is just an example of a 90-day plan. But notice, it's not a laundry list. These plans should typically fit on one page. These are the most important things that if they hit this, I know they can own the role, and I know they can deliver great resources. Now, one of the things you'll notice is, by and large, these are not activities, these are actual results. I'll give you an example. Imagine if you hired an OSA, an outbound sales associate, and they nailed their contacts, they nailed the number of dials that they needed to make, and they never booked an appointment. Would you say that person's succeeding in the role? See, a lot of times we put activities on there and not actual results. At the end of the day, it's the results that pay the bill. If I've got an OSA that makes all their dials and makes all their contacts, doesn't book any appointments, that doesn't fundamentally work for the business. So it's going to be something that relates to how many appointments do they book. Yes, they're going to have to make dials, and yes, they're going to have to make contacts, but that's not what goes on this. I'm interested in the results. I'm interested in the results. Now, everything on here would be what we would call 20% components of a role. So most of you are familiar with the 80-20 rule. It says that 20% of the things we do actually drive 80% of the results. And then that means conversely, the other 80% of the things that we could do then cumulatively only drive 20%. Everything on this list would be a 20% activity. I don't care how many other to-dos they have in a role, right? Because a role is obviously going to be much bigger than what's just here. I don't care about that. I want to know, can they deliver the 20%? And here's the way I think about it in my organizations. If I've got somebody that can nail the 20%, and maybe they can't get the 80% done because they're either busy, they don't have the bandwidth, they're not talented at it, but they can do the 20%, guess what? They have a job. They're going to have a place in my organization because it's the 20% that drives the business forward. It's what gives us 80% of the results. Now, they won't get promoted. They don't get advancement. They don't get other opportunities until they can own the whole role, because why would I put them in a bigger role when they can't fully own the one they want? But they have a job. Now, conversely, what happens is a lot of organizations, we got people that can do the 80% really, really well, but they don't actually drive the 20%. Guess what? They don't have a job. I don't care if they can nail every component of the 80%. If they can't hit the 20%, they don't have a job because the business needs the 80% of the actual results that we're after. Last thing on this is that this is a pass-fail test. It is either 100% completion or 0% completion. I have found typically if someone isn't willing to roll their sleeves up, dig in, and nail this 90-day plan, and I don't care how long it takes, I really don't. I want to see, do they have the tenacity? Do they have the discipline? Do they have the commitment to be able to push through this? If they can't, they don't get to stay. I may love them, and I've had to let people go that I really loved, that I really wanted them to succeed. And guess what? Remember, if I'm running an organization of A players resent when the leader allows B's and C's into their organization. Hold strong to this. This is pass fail. This is pass fail. All right. So up here again, this may or may not make sense, and it's not important that you understand, but what I want to show you is that I am a big believer that I want to have a balancing act in someone's first 90, 100 days between them having to be resourceful versus me making sure that they're not flying blind. Our job as leaders is to create a structure and a system where we give them enough information that it gets them rolling so they're not sitting there twiddling their thumbs wondering what they're supposed to do, but without telling them how to do everything else. One of the most important things in any organization, and by the way, and I can get into all sorts of reasons for this, one of the biggest challenges we see with most employees is they are not resourceful. They do not know how to actually go find the answers. They may be great order takers, meaning if you're very, very clear and specific with what you need them to do, they'll go out and do it, but they can't actually figure things out on their own. Here's the end of the day. If we don't have resourceful people, guess what? We become the bottleneck because they can't progress in their role unless we give them the answers, which means if I'm giving someone the answers, I can't be doing anything else that I need to be doing. We need to develop and make sure that they are resourceful, but at the same time, we're not flying them blind. We're not just throwing them out into the wolves and say, good luck, sink or swim. We want to give them at least enough resources to be able to keep them going. All right, let's go to the next piece here, which is about developing and growing your people to massive success, All right, so this is about teaching people how to think. At the end of the day, I always think of leadership boils down to this concept of it's about teaching people how to think so that they do what they need to do and then in turn get what they need to get. If talent sees you as a vehicle for their success, if they can get whatever it is that they want, they'll never leave you. Yet we have to teach them how to think so that they'll do what they need to do. And so in our organizations, one of the things we always talk about is the difference between standards and goals. And every role, it doesn't matter what the role is going to have a standard, which is by definition the minimum level of performance. In other words, I'm going to get really clear with every role in the organizations is what is the minimum level of performance that I can tolerate? If that means that we're still moving forward. So I'll use sales numbers because that's the easiest example. If I've got a sales team, I may say, well, the minimum standard to stay in the organization is to sell 2 homes a month. As long as you're able to sell 2 homes a month, great, you have an opportunity here. If you drop below that after a certain point, we're going to have a different conversation. But I also want everyone to have a goal. So the standard may be 2, but I may have people that say, well, hey, I'm happy selling 2 homes a year. And if that's my standard, then cool. If that happens to be the same as their goal, great. I want to coach them so that they can do that. But I may have other people say, well, I know the standard's 2, but I want to actually do 5 a month. Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. Then my job is to hold people to the standard and coach them to their goal. We hold to the standard. We make hiring and firing decisions on the standard. We coach to the goal. Because again, as I said just a couple minutes ago, if people are getting what it is that they want, if they see you as a vehicle for their success, they're never going to leave you. Jeff, it's why you have people on your team that are selling astronomically high number of units. And they stay with you because they see you and they see your organization as a vehicle for their success. Why would they ever leave? Now, here's the reality, and I'll touch on this here right at the end, is that the most important meetings you can have on any given week, it's not your listing presentation, it's not your buyer presentations, it's your one-on-ones with the people that directly report to you. Those are the single most important meetings you can have in any given week. I'm going to give you an analogy to close off today's session. But we have to understand there's a great phrase that says the relationship is the conversation. So in business, that means the business conversation is the business relationship. If you're struggling to have great relationships with your people, it's because you're not having the right conversations. Now, anytime I'm going to do an accountability or a one-on-one meeting, by the way, these do not need to be long meetings. In many cases, these can be 10 to 15 minutes, especially if they're on pace, especially on pace. A couple rules of thumb, though, for having effective accountability and one-on-one meetings. First, there's always an agenda in place. We don't walk into the meeting and say, oh, what should we talk about? No, there's an agenda in place. My preference is to give them the opportunity to control most of it. Meaning they're going to send me an agenda in advance. I will review it. If it looks good to me, we'll execute on it. And I may have some play. If I need to add or take something off, then I will do that. But I'm going to let them run with creating the agenda, and then I'll approve it before the meeting. The goal of every meeting that we walk into then is to support them on hitting their expectations of the role, right? Hold to the standard, coach to the goal. Hold to the standard, coach to the goal. And every single one of these meetings, it ends with action steps. So whether we're doing well or whether we're not, we have next steps, Now, great rule of thumb that I learned that's been very, very helpful for me is when we end a meeting and we've clarified what the action steps are, I'm going to ask them to go back to their computer and send me an email with those action steps. And I do that for 2 reasons. The first thing, by forcing them to articulate it in writing, I can make sure that we were having the same conversation. There's nothing worse than thinking you've got clear action steps, waiting a week, coming back to that meeting, and you think you're going to get a certain deliverable, and they're like, I didn't understand. I thought you wanted this, this, and this, not that, and that. So I'm going to have them email me what the action steps are. But here's the other thing: as my business has grown, if I had more people to lead, it wasn't always easy to remember all the details. So I have them email it to me, and then I use a delay send on my email to automatically forward it to me on the day of our next meeting. The beauty of that is I don't have to remember anything we talked about or focus on it. It shows up on my email the day of our next meeting. I'm able to see it, and I walk back into that meeting knowing exactly what was committed to. Last thing on this, no cancellations. I don't care what the reason is. This is their time. If you want to build a world-class organization, understand you only have 24 hours in a day. But when you bring 9 other people into your world, now you've got an organization of 10, you have 240 hours in a day. Your success will be more determined by your ability to pour into them and help them succeed than you putting anything else on your shoulders and trying to carry it forward. These meetings happen every single time. By the way, if you've got a big organization and maybe you've got different levels of leadership, your number one job as the leader is to make sure your direct reports are meeting with their direct reports. It's the first question I'm going to ask. Tell me about your direct report meetings. Tell me about where the development is. All right, awesome. Let's keep going a little bit.
I want to say one thing on that. You just shared, 3 to 5 minutes of good stuff on just how to have an effective one-on-one meeting. And I think oftentimes brokers, owners, lead agents, team leaders, that when they decide to do them, it's a lot of, hey, how you doing? How's the kids? How's this? How's your business? And no, you're coming in with, all right, what's going well? What are you having challenges with? And here's the action items. And by the way, those are the three things really. If you've got nothing that you can think about to talk about, just ask them, hey, what's going well? What are you having challenges with? And how can I help? And then of course, from there, you can have a conversation of, okay, between now and our next meeting, what would you like to accomplish? Very simple question. Between now and our next meeting, what would you like to accomplish? And that is the homework. That is the action items that then you're assigning them to turn around and email to you. So that way it's sending an email to yourself the next time you have a one-on-one with them, because as you so basically alluded to there, there's only one thing that's worse than assigning homework, and that is assigning homework and not following up on it. Right? We can have a conversation about action items, but if I talk to you again for your next scheduled one-on-one in 2 weeks and I don't follow up with it, guess what that says to the agent? That says to the agent, I can get away with anything. I don't have to do these homework assignments. I mean, he doesn't even remember that we talked about that. So it's very important that if you're going to assign action items or assign homework, because you really, and Matt, tell me if I'm wrong here, but you really should never end a one-on-one session with one of your agents without an action item or homework for between now and your next meeting. And of course, the very first thing you do, as you've got a clever way of doing that, having an auto email send the day of the meeting, the very first thing you do in the next meeting is you follow up on that assignment. You follow up on that homework. It's so crucial.
Yeah, love it, love it, love it. All right, let's keep going. We got a little bit more content here. Now let's talk about how do we develop people over the long term, and then how do we actually retain superstar talent. But if you remember, I'll go back to the Maxwell saying, how did it start? It said, our job as leaders is to teach people how to think so that they go do what they need to do to get what they want. It starts with teaching people how to think. And one of the big challenges we see from lead agents, we see from broker owners is we're doers by nature, right? We like to put out fires. We like to come up with solutions. We like to fix things, and we like to get it done so we get on to the next task. Here's the reality. Every time I give my people the answer, I am not teaching them how to think. I'm solving the problem in that case, but I'm not actually developing them. My job as a leader is to teach people how to think, which means every time I make a statement, I am by definition not teaching them how to think. So how do we teach people how to think? We become great at asking questions. We become great at asking questions so that they have to do the heavy lifting. Let me go back here. And I'll give you an example of questions that you can ask to get people to come up with the solutions. By the way, this is what great coaches do as well, is they ask their people great questions that force them to learn how to think so they can come up with the solution. A couple other things on this in terms of developing people. Understand that talent, if we're in business with talent, they hate to be micromanaged. That is one of the number one rules from just about every talented person I've ever met, is they do not want to be micromanaged. What that means as leaders, our job is to hold people to the result, not the process. It's to hold people to a specific outcome, but it is to allow them autonomy in how they go about getting about that solution.
Hey, Sutter, I don't mean to interrupt you. Are we supposed to be looking at a slide? Right now I can see your Zoom, just your post attendee Zoom.
Oh, that's weird. Okay, let me try again. How's that?
Hold on. There we go. There it is.
All right, cool. Thank you. Yeah, that was weird. Okay, so we cannot micromanage them. Well, then how does someone grow? Well, here's another really critical thing on leadership side, and this is very tough for most of us that have kind of ascended to leadership positions. We have to allow our people to make mistakes. Remember when I said earlier, I actually don't want to hire people that haven't had failures, that haven't had mistakes. We actually have to allow our people to make mistakes, because that is how they're going to grow. So number one rule of thought is give your people freedom to push the envelope and make mistakes. Give them those lanes, though, in the non-mission critical things. So I always think we've got two functions in our business. We've got mission critical activities or results and non-mission critical activities or results. Allow them to fail and make mistakes in the non-mission critical stuff, and then coach them by utilizing these questions so that they can self-discover how would they have solved that or how would they have changed it going forward. All right, last thing, and I wish we had about 11 more hours, Jeff, because we could go so much deeper in this. Last thing, let's talk about retention. How do we make sure that once we've hired, we've trained, we've coached, we've led superstar talent, how do we make sure that they always see us as a vehicle for success? Well, I'm going to repeat what I said earlier. At the end of the day, Talent may like you, but they don't care about you. They care about getting their unreal life. And their strong opinion is they do not see your opportunity or you as a vehicle for them to get to their unreal life. They will leave you. They will leave you. So how do we make sure they're not going to want to leave us? Well, we have to understand that this circle in here represents your world. And we can retain superstar talent as long as the world they want fits in with ours. See, in this scenario, because my world's big enough, if somebody has one of the black circles, and that's the world that's their unreal life, the world they want to create, they're going to stay in my organization. But what happens? What happens is they want that world on the screen, that big black dot. Well, I have two choices. I either have to let them go, and by the way, that is an acceptable answer at times. I'm not pushing anyone to have to grow their world. At the Deliver You organization, we want you to have your unreal life, whatever that may look like. But I also understand that I'm going to lose this person unless I grow my world. So how do we retain superstar talent? We retain them by giving them other opportunities. I think every day, okay, if I've got, and I literally every day is my number one job is to create opportunities for my top people. I have to always be 2 to 3 years ahead of what may be going on right now so that I can map out that talent is going to be able to continue to get opportunities within my world and organization. So for me, what that's meant is at times starting companies that I never envisioned actually starting. But I could do that because that became an opportunity catalyst for somebody that was superstar talented, which then became retention to keep them into the organization. And Jeff, I want to leave with this, and then we'll close up. Is you and I are big believers in there's 3 key muscle groups that you've got to develop if you want to be just world class in the business world. And 99.9% of the training and education in our industry deals with the first. The first is sales skills. And we know that's the foundation of any sort of real estate business, regardless. We've got to be able to sell, right? It's absolutely important. But here's the thing. Sales skills are additive, which means every time I go out and do a listing presentation and use my sales skills, I add 1 unit to the business, right? I go take a listing today and I go take a listing tomorrow. Boom, I've just added 2 listings to my business. Nothing wrong with that, but that's a limited ceiling. And the ceiling is because, as I said before, you only have 24 hours in a day. So even if you were to become world-class in sales, you can still only maximize what you can actually accomplish in 24 hours. The real key for those people that want to have just massive levels of success and ultimately massive levels of income and freedom is to develop the other 2 muscle groups. The problem is they take an intense amount of training and focus and development to do it. The first one is leadership skills, really developing your ability to teach people how to think and groom them to where they want to go. Here's the cool thing. Unlike sales skills, leadership skills become multiplicative. Because if I bring 10 people into my organization and I'm oversimplifying the analogy and I teach each of them how to make 1 transaction, then boom, that was multiplicative because now instead of 1 + 1 = 2, we've now got 10 people times 1 additional transaction equals the business just went up 10. When we develop our leadership skills and we're able to develop people, we can actually scale so much faster because in this case, instead of having 24 hours in a day, now the business has 240 hours in a day. But the last one is then developing business skills. And when we do this at a high level, that becomes exponential. Because the idea is when I create systems and structures and when I cultivate a leadership culture, then I can bring 10 people into the organization that also bring 10 people into the organization. And if each of them sold 1 additional unit, boom, in the same amount of time, the same amount of effort, the same amount of energy, now the business has grown by 100 units or whatever that is. And I'm just using a sales example here, but you get the idea. The thing is, we've got to get out of believing that the additive approach is going to get us to our goals. It's only when we can get into the multiplicative and then the exponential that we get there. All right, Jeff.
Matt, you'll appreciate this. I was speaking of the multiplication approach. I was looking at our numbers just this morning. We've got just over 600 agents in our brokerages, Matt, doing over 1 billion in sales a year, over 1 billion in sales a year. I could never do that alone, right? I could never personally do that. We're selling last year over 8,000 units in our market, over 8,000 sales. That's multiplication. Our team of 50, our sales team, now those are the brokerages. Our team of 50 is still doing between 900 and 1,000 units every year. And so, yes, you're going to hit a ceiling. And at the end of the day, if you have a desire to grow and a desire to train and a desire to develop, then you got to be paying attention to this stuff. And, because the salesperson and tell me if you disagree with this, the salesperson qualities and traits that you learn, right? The scripts and the role plays and the objection handlers, and that's only going to get you so far. There's a whole nother side of this, right? You have to go from essentially being a salesperson to learning how to be a CEO. And so many agents today think that because they had a successful sales career, well, I might as well be a CEO now, or I might as well go open a brokerage, or I might as well go get a bunch of agents in my downline, or I might as well, because they think their skills will just transfer over. And that's just not the case, is it?
No, it's not at all. And most of us had our head in the sand, right? We've been blinded into believing that our success will continue. But the reality is, as I said right at the top of the hour, we are in the single greatest real estate market of all time. This will not last. Here's the problem, Jeff, is that when it does change, we're too late. It's only going to be those people that make the commitment now to develop their leadership and business that are going to have enough time to develop those skills to actually be ready when those skills will actually be needed.
Bingo. So we have a solution. If you guys could do me a favor, turn to page 15 in your workbook. If you didn't get a chance to get it printed, we'll get it up on the screen. Do me a favor, turn to page 15 in your workbook. The language I used there was from salesperson to CEO. That was, of course, by design, because we see so many salespeople today attempting to go start brokerages, attempting to go start downlines, attempting to go start teams. And so many of them come to us and say, how do I do what Jeff did? How do I do what Matt did? How do I do what you guys are doing? So we decided we would put a program together that answers that question. And so for those of you that haven't had a chance to join us yet, this has been one of the most popular programs that we ever put together with Matt. In fact, the first time we launched it, it sold out. This is Empire Building from Salesperson to CEO. This is only for the brokers and owners, team leaders, and lead agents that are on that actually want to learn how to turn their sales skill or their sales muscle into a business. So can you tell us a little bit about it, Matt?
Yeah, this is a soup to nuts class that recognizes that our sales skills are fundamentally, as I said earlier, are limited to the amount of time that we can work in the business on any given day. And then we get simply no more results. This class is really designed for those people that want to go on the leadership journey, that want to understand how to actually operate a business, how to put the right systems and structures, how to create operational processes, how to implement models and systems into the business that are going to allow us to scale it, all while being able to attract the right talent, develop, which is what we're talking today, develop the right talent, and then ultimately retain the right talent. Here's the thing. Here's what I know is that right now, most agents are successful. I also know, and Jeff, you and I have both been in the business for about 20 years, so we know the other side of the coin when it comes to markets. When we get there, right, that's going to really show who has developed outside of just purely being sales oriented into somebody that can think like a great leader and a great business person. This is that opportunity.
The next market will flush out the one-hit wonders, that's for sure.
Exactly.
So this program is, and that's got to be a typo. Is it really $399 a month, Matt?
It's $399 a month. That's a lot less than it costs to hire me one-on-one. That's for sure.
So $399 a month for 4 months, and it's 16 modules. And can you tell us how that works and how that looks for anyone that might be considering it?
Yeah, so it's every Tuesday at 2:00 Eastern. It's for about anywhere between 50 minutes and an hour. And we go very, very deep into 16 specific topics. There's homework every single class. Now, by the way, you don't have to do the homework, yet the homework is designed, just like Jeff and I were talking about. It's designed to help you learn how to think, to teach you how to think around how you're developing your leadership and business skills. And the cool thing is, and you can talk to our past graduates, this stuff is stuff you can implement immediately, and you'll get results from it immediately. Yeah, that's what's so cool about it.
And what's really cool, I shared those numbers earlier, the $1 billion in sales every single year and 600 agents in my brokerages. Matt and I sat down and made a list of, all right, what are all the things that we've been doing differently in our businesses from other people that we observe, from the fly-by-nights and the social media, wannabes? What is it that we're actually doing different? So we wrote out all of the recruiting tactics. They cover recruiting scripts and dialogues and the recruiting presentation, getting into, as Matt talked about, profit and loss and what your margin should look like as your business grows. It's a very tactical course for anyone that's currently leading a brokerage that wants to take it to the next level, or somebody that's a salesperson and wants to have more than just a couple assistants. You want to actually start to build an empire. So hence the reason for the name there. If you want just information and you want to take a look at the agreement or take a look at the pricing and all that, just like you texted morning to 55444, you can text CEO to 55444. So that same phone number, 55444, the letters CEO, and that'll get you all the information. That doesn't automatically sign you up or anything like that, but it just gets you everything you need. So that way you can read it and digest it over the next few days before it starts. It's starting in February, Matt?
Yep, starting middle of February.
Awesome. Awesome. And I know you'll have a good group of previous attendees, because there's a lot of people that take it 2 or 3 times. Why? Because we're always updating the material, because what worked 2-3 years ago is different than what works today. And so, I know you have a lot of choices out there. I know there's a lot of great trainers. I know there's a lot of great speakers. I know there's a lot of great coaches. And hopefully you've recognized by now the difference between us and most of the rest. We're in it with you. We're on the ground with you in the recruiting presentations, in the listing appointments. We know what you're going through. So if you've got some value out of today's session, do me a favor, throw your hand up in the air down in the chat, or say yes, just show some love for Matt down there. And if you want to know more of this program, text the word CEO to 55444. Last but certainly not least, unless you had anything that you wanted to add to that, Matt?
No, looking forward to seeing many of these attendees in the class.
Awesome. Yeah, I know we'll have quite a few in there, and it's live, it's interactive. You have a chance to ask questions. You're not just sitting and watching a video for 45 to 60 minutes. I know several people reach out to you outside of the class, and you're always responsive in the Facebook group. It's not just hey, show up, 45, 55 minutes and get out of there, right?
Yeah, it is interactive on this type of content. Obviously, we can't be interactive on it because we have too many attendees in the class. And that's the reason we cap the attendance. That's, people are like, well, how can an online class sell out? Well, because I have a certain amount of bandwidth. And if I don't feel like I can interact with the people at the level I want to, then we cap the class.
Bingo. All right. Last couple of things in case you guys got on late. Remember, join us in the Glover U Inner Circle. That's a Facebook group. That's how you're going to know when you're coming to your town. We've already worked out the dates for our spring and summer tour. I cannot wait until we announce that. If you haven't had a chance to get your hands on the 2022 planner, just go to gloveru.com and click on the shop. You'll see all the stuff in there. And hopefully we will see many of you in Matt Sutter's next class. And of course, we've got 7 more sessions now to go in this winter webinar series. gloveru.com/webinar to check out the next one. Share it with your agents, share it with your leadership team, and broker owners, team leaders, and lead agents. Get into salesperson to CEO. We wrote this program just for you. Let's make it a great Monday and even better rest of the week. See you guys.
Thanks, everyone.